If you wanna find me, yeah, I'm in the front row. Got my 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. The best place to be, I'm in the front row. Best place to be, yeah. If you wanna find me, yo, I'm in the front row. Got my 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. The best place to be, I'm in.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the In the Front Row YouTube channel. This is episode number 3 of Double Turbo, and we are super excited, Dylan and Dustin, back with you. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed, hit that notification bell and subscribe button down below. Yeah, I think just to subscribe so you get all of our latest content and videos with a few projects coming up and a few projects that are like this one that are underway. So subscribe so you do not miss a thing that our team is doing or is going to do in the future. We have a lot to talk about this episode, and we are going to talk about what's hitting the sports internet this morning. J.J. Watt released after 10 seasons with the Houston Texans. Apparently, it is a mutual release. J.J. Watt requested his release, and it was granted. Where he'll go next, who knows? But we are going to talk about what is going on with the Houston Texans. Remember, at the end of the season, Deshaun Watson said they need a whole culture change, and there's no real foundation with the Houston Texans. We saw the Bill O'Brien saga before he was fired after an 0-4 start. Your reaction, what is going on in Houston? I guess we'll break it down one piece at a time. Yeah. We'll start with your reaction to J.J. Watt, who's really been their franchise guy being released.
Yeah. For me, my first thing I thought was it's good for J.J. Watt, just because I think it's mutually beneficial, as you said. I think J.J. Watt wanted it because he only has like 2 or 3 years left in his prime. So, well, not prime, but 2 or 3 years, probably like a good football left. And so I think him getting out of Houston, not going to wait for a while, is good for him. I just think it shows the destruction in Houston. We can talk about that a little more when we get into it. But the J.J. Watt piece, I like it. And TJ, his brother, once J.J. to come to Pittsburgh.
Could you imagine?
I'm just saying, TJ and JJ rushing the edge. That'd be nice to see. Well, not really because I'm a Ravens fan, but
yeah, tough division.
So I think it's good for JJ Watt. But sorry.
It's definitely something.
I think release, and that's what I'm gonna say. Like, this real quick. Release is like it always goes into like a negative term, but like this one, it's like I think it's actually good and like positive. I think you need to change.
Oh, definitely. And I think it was shocking this morning. I was scrolling through Instagram and it was like players that Houston, like as a city, has lost. And he was the last one. And I was like, wait, what's happening? I wasn't like paying attention. So I was like, oh my God, he actually got released. But you think of all the players that this Houston as a city has lost with the Rockets, with the Texans and the Astros as well. And wow, that city's been through a lot. It's going to be interesting to see where he plays next. And I think that it would be interesting if he goes to Pittsburgh or goes somewhere. But it seems like from all the articles that I've read, it seems like it's more of a positive thing. Like you said, it's more of he requested it, he wanted out, and they kind of were like, okay, thanks for giving us 10 years. He's still going to mean a lot to the city of Houston. A lot is happening in Houston that we want to get into. The Texans president, Jamie Roots, has resigned among some tension in the front office. It doesn't make it look good when you're releasing a player and then there's tension. Your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, is still, wanting out and has requested to be traded. An update on that. Apparently today, the Texans owner said that Deshaun Watson is their quarterback. He is not going to be moved, despite is that a ploy to try to get a bigger trade? We don't know really what's going on. Your reaction to this whole saga with the Texans and their president resigning. This is a man who spent 20 years in the organization.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been there since 2000. I think it starts with ownership. I think the ownership is terrible. Kyle McNair needs to go. I think he's ruining a lot of things that are happening in Houston right now. You lose someone who's been in the organization and running your football operations basically he hasn't been running it for 20 years, but he's worked up to that for 20 years. Just because they bring in, I think it was Jack Easterby they brought in, who he has a problem with. And if you look at Jack Easterby's resume, it was an impressive rise, but it's very quick. I don't think he's put in the time to run a whole entire organization. Like, he's gone from being a character coach in New England to now being basically the president of the Texans and making all their decisions. It's embarrassing for the Texans because they're just trying to be a New England 2.0. And that's what Deshaun Watson was frustrated with. You're not the Patriots, so calm down. No one's going to run the organization like the Patriots. And with bringing in Bill O'Brien, the new GM they brought in comes from New England. Easterby comes from New England. You're not New England. You're in Texas for a reason, not up there in Foxborough. So, yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's interesting to think about. I'm trying to think back of the coaches that have come out of the Bill Belichick system. Matt Patricia wasn't that successful with his stint. in Detroit, he was fired. They have moved on to Mr. Kneecaps. But we'll see how that goes, if that's better. But it's just interesting to see. I want to note last week, the Texans also fired their director of football administration, their equipment manager, and vice president of football operations. They're really making changes. I don't know if it's because of the dysfunction or the past season that they just had. Remember, they were a team with Watson in his tenure that has been a playoff-bound team, despite before the season, despite all the disaster going on. Obviously, they didn't make it as far as they wanted to in the playoffs. They were up big in Kansas City last year before Kansas City came back and then obviously went on to win the Super Bowl. Well, it's technically 2 seasons ago now that the playoffs have just ended. I just think it's been such a disaster, Bill O'Brien. I think it's the downfall started when he traded DeAndre Hopkins. You gave away a top 5 receiver, a shorthand receiver to Arizona for basically nothing. And then Deshaun Watson probably would have been gone if Bill O'Brien was still the GM. It's interesting to see what they'll do moving forward. They moved on from O'Brien, and his firing was really, I don't mean to hate on anyone's career, but his firing, if you talk to experts and you listen to people and what they say, was long overdue. There was a few NFL coaches that sat at the helm for a lot longer than people expected. It's a lot to figure out what's going on in Houston. Obviously, you'll never know what's going on behind closed doors, tension, arguments. When people get in a position of power, they act differently. We will continue to follow it here. It's going to be interesting to see the changes going on in Houston. J.J. Watt, again, released today after 10 seasons. Good.
Yeah, the interesting part to me, I'll give credit to Louis Riddick. He's one of my favorite analysts. If you look at the Texans, there's I can't remember all the positions he listed, but he was quarterback, wide receiver, pass rushers. This is where the NFL is going. It's more of a passing league with quarterbacks and receivers, and just pass rush on the edge, obviously, because that's where the NFL is going. It's not why have a run ball anymore. So you lost J.J. Watt, obviously, because of what's going on. You lost Jadeveon Clowney, season ago. You lost, you're about to lose Deshaun Watson. I don't care what people say. He's going to be traded. He's not going to play for the Texans again. DeAndre Hopkins was traded. They had 4 of the elite, positions you need, and 4 elite guys, and they never even made an AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
If that doesn't scream dysfunction, then
I don't know what does. Also, remember, I think the Super Bowl this past season, just a week ago, really showed how much the trenches matter in football. The Chiefs missing their 2 terrific starting tackles, and Patrick Mahomes could not or had no time in the pocket. They really struggled. The Buccaneers got a lot of pass rush. I'm not saying that if maybe the tackles played it, but I think it would have been a closer game. Obviously, we'll never know. But again, this morning, J.J. Watt released after 10 seasons with the team. The Texans president resigns, after 20 seasons with the team. A lot going on in Houston. Will continue to follow. That city needs to get their crap together. A lot going on. Coming up, I know you have a few bones to pick here. With Russell Wilson and his comments he made this past week, we're going to discuss that.
You wanna find me, Joe? I'm in the front row. Got 2 tickets on me. I'm in the front row. The best place to be. I'm in the front row. Best place to be. So what's colder than ice and even hotter than a flame? I be in the front row, chilling at a booth.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the In the Front Row YouTube channel. This is episode 3 of Double Trouble, and we are super excited. Hey, it's just the beginning, and we want to get into other interesting comments made this week in the NFL with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson really said a lot this past week, and we want to dive all into it. Russell Wilson, I think he was talking to reporters via Zoom, and he said that, he wants more decision-making in the team personnel. He wants more of a say. He also said that I'll just read his quote. He said, like any player, you never want to get hit. That's the reality of playing this position. Ask any quarterback. But then he goes on to say, where's the interesting thing? I think it's reality. I've definitely been hit. I'm frustrated about getting hit too much is the line I want to say. He says he's frustrated about getting hit too much. We were just talking about the trenches. As a quarterback, it's something obviously you sign up for, but your reaction to the comments made by Russell Wilson this past week, remember he also said it's a Seahawks decision if he were to be traded.
Yeah, he was on the Dan Patrick show. That's where he said all of it. First of all, I needed that ticker. You know when Stephen A. puts up that LeBron ticker? Great husband, great philanthropist. And I can't say that word.
Philanthropist?
Yeah. I went into it.
Yeah.
But I need that ticker that Stephen A. puts up because Russell Wilson's a good guy, off the field. But I'm tired of hearing this. I know they're trying to get into the NBA is, where it's more of a player-driven league, and the player wants to go somewhere for Anthony Davis. He's like, I want to go to the Lakers, so he went to the Lakers. And they're trying to make it like that in the NFL. but it can't be every situation, my man. First of all, I'm just gonna say this. Russell Wilson's hit a lot because he scrambles a lot and he holds onto the ball too long.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get hit less, be like Tom Brady and get that ball out. He runs around a lot. It's kind of like he does the Patrick Mahomes during the Super Bowl this past Sunday. Yeah, like he runs around a lot. He holds onto the ball too long. Of course, you're gonna get hit if you're holding onto the ball too long. And we can't make every situation that is just. First of all, Seattle's been competitive for years now. They haven't had a bad year. And we can't make every situation like, oh my God, this isn't good enough. Like, get out of here. Like, Deshaun Watson, I completely understand. I back Deshaun Watson. Like, that basically just said that organization is a disgrace. Like, like he has his right to get out of there. Like, Russell Wilson, you're in a stable organization with a great head coach. You have DK Metcalf as your receiver with Tyler Lockett, who not many people talk about. And if you go back to early in his career, they gave him everything they needed. They gave him a Super Bowl win because he had an elite defense. And I'm not saying Russell Wilson's not talented, but I'm saying that defense, obviously, you saw what they did to the Broncos in the Super Bowl that year. And if they weren't so stubborn about making Russell Wilson the face of the franchise, they would have won 2 Super Bowls if they turned around and handed it to Marshawn Lynch. We all remember that infamous decision. So I'm tired of every situation being like, oh my God, this isn't good enough, and just being like, oh, I want out. Like, no, you don't want out. Like, I'm sorry, Russell Wilson's a good guy, but you don't want out just because things get a little tough. It just shows me a little bit about it.
It's been the narrative in Seattle since he's taken the reins as starting quarterback. I think it's interesting, obviously, to see. Remember, they had that great defense. They had a running game, and they kind of moved into more of a passing West Coast kind of offense and flinging the ball more. We saw when they had the running game. I think people want it because it's a social media driven league. You get to be on the highlights. Everyone gets to know your name, and it's more of an individuality thing now, and it's more of a business than it was, run the ball, as Mike Tomlin says, run the ball, and protect. And I think, but when it always comes down to it, playoff football is a little tougher, and it's always more of a focusing on defense. We saw the Buccaneers had a great defense. What Todd Bowles did over the course of the postseason, they won the Super Bowl, obviously. The Chiefs defense 2 seasons ago heavily improved going into the postseason from the year before. So we've seen defenses take a notch up like that. Going back to Russell Wilson, I think Seattle's as an organization kind of has gotten away from that. Maybe that's why he wants more. I don't know why he wants more decision making or say in the team personnel. Maybe that's why he's like, oh, we need to get back to the foundation of where. I'm just making an assumption. I'm not saying this is true at all. But maybe he wants to get back to that. Maybe he wants to focus on being protected more. It takes a lot. We've seen Matt Stafford, I've said this before, be beat up at year after year in Detroit. We'll see, obviously, what he does with the Rams. But be beat up year after year, take injury after injury, play through injuries, and he hasn't been as successful as Russell Wilson winning-wise. It hurts you after. You see a lot, and I think that's maybe what Russell Wilson is also concerned about. I know people say he holds on to the ball too much. He scrambles too much, tries to make too many plays. He's a creative quarterback in that way. But maybe he's worried about his career after the NFL as well. It takes a lot. I know, and I did appreciate when he was like, I know this is what I signed up for. It's a job. I know what I'm going into. But maybe he's worried about his career after, saying that, it's really going to take a long-term effect on me. We've seen all the development with CT and concussion protocol over the past few years and what it does to players. Maybe he's worried about that growing up with, how many kids do they have? I'm not sure. But growing up, wanting to be involved and not have medical issues because of
I understand that, but then
being a quarterback. That's how I took it.
I totally understand that. I know, if that's his concern, like, I understand it. But also, like, change your style of play then. Like, if you don't want to be, like, Russell Wilson's a very creative player. And, like, he's probably easy top 10. I don't know if I'll give him top 5 in this league, but he's top 10. But every time they just want to be like, let's let Russell Wilson cook for a season, they're giving him all the freedom he wants. And then, obviously, he was the MVP candidate for the first half of the season until Aaron Rodgers, took over. And Russell Wilson faded a little bit with Seattle. But just because something gets a little tough, you want out. Like, just change your style of play. Like, if you don't want to get hit, don't hold on to the ball as long. I think it's pretty simple.
I didn't take it as much as it got a little tough that he wants to get out. I didn't take it like that. I took it more of like him protecting himself and himself moving forward, and he's taking a lot of beatings. The offensive line maybe isn't the best, and he wants to fix it. That's how I took it. I didn't take it as, it's a little tough. So all of a sudden I want to be traded. I don't think he's going to get traded. He said it's a Seahawks decision.
They're not gonna trade.
Yeah, I don't know why you would.
No.
They're successful every year. They make the playoffs, I believe, most years in his tenure, if not every year. So I think, but I also think Seattle, it's interesting because we've talked about it before. They haven't given him the creative freedom, I think, in the postseason. They kind of put him in handcuffs in the postseason and kind of baby him that way. And I wish they let him go all season and see how that could shape up. I guess, I don't know. We'll see moving forward what obviously will happen.
There's also a few quarterbacks in this league you can give like I don't want to say a non-talented team, but just like something like, like they can create so much, like elite, I guess. Like Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are really the only two guys that are like, it doesn't really matter what they have around them. Like they're gonna be great no matter what. And I'm not saying Russell Wilson's not elite. Like, I think he's top. I would say top 10. I don't know if I'll get him top 5. But I just think, I don't know, man. It's just like either change your style of play, get the ball out quicker, don't run as much, or just, I just think just because, like, I know Seattle's missed on their offensive line draft picks a lot, but they haven't missed in many other areas. And I know that's probably the most important to him because you said that, like it showed in the Super Bowl, like the game is won in the trenches, so it's probably a bad spot to miss. But it's still, if you think about it, like they've hit on a lot of, like, could you imagine? I'm trying to think of a quarterback in this situation. Like, I don't know, Deshaun Watson. Do you think if Deshaun Watson's in Seattle right now, he's asking out? Like, if you give him DK Metcalf on the outside with Tyler Lockett, you think so. And like a decent set of running backs? They have like what, a 3-headed monster there with Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson, and Penny, who was injured this year, but still a 3-headed monster. I don't know, man. I think your situation's good enough. Not every player can be like, I want out just because it's like not, elite everywhere around.
Drinking from the power drink, I guess. I think a lot of people, once they get into a certain position of power, just want as much as they can. We've seen, Bill O'Brien was the GM. We saw what he did with it. Bill Belichick is the GM as well.
Not a good one.
but I'm saying people get to what probably maybe he wants to protect himself. We've seen what's happened with Aaron Rodgers and them drafting quarterbacks. So that's a whole other
you always have to bring up Aaron Rodgers.
situation.
You always got to bring up your boy.
Yeah. I protect Aaron Rodgers till the end.
Carson Wentz, though. Can you talk about like 2 seconds?
I don't want to waste my time on that.
You're a big Carson Wentz guy, right?
I don't.
You said it on the show.
No, I don't. We're gonna wrap it up.
Where does he go? I'm just asking. He's gonna be traded in the next week or 2, apparently.
I would say Indy. If I had to pick a team, I would say Indy. Okay. Makes no sense. I don't know. Yeah. We do have to wrap it up here for the 3rd episode of Double Trouble. We will be back next week. Guys, go ahead and subscribe and follow us on social media at In the Front Row LA. Also, follow us on our social medias as well. The links will be in the description to stay along for the journey. You know what we should talk about next week? Bradley Beal and how he's being disrespected.
You know what we should also talk about? How Carson Wentz, I would not give a 1st-round pick for him. That's ridiculous what they're asking for, man.
Anyway, we have a lot to talk about. I do. I think I actually want to have a debate with Fredo. And
here we go. You and Fredo on Bradley Beal.
Yeah, he thinks he's overrated, and I don't know. We're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss that. Guys, we need to wrap up here. Go ahead and follow us. We'll see you in the
If you wanna find me, yo, I'm in the front row. Got 2 tickets on me, I'm in the front row. The best place to be